If you have ever had to recover from a tsunami, a nuclear meltdown, a financial meltdown, or a war, then you will know what it feels like to be the destination brands that we're about to talk about. So, hello, this is Marketing Global Edition with me, Jasmine Montgomery.
And me, Piers Ghila. So, yeah, crack on, Jasmine.
Yeah, so Piers, where are you just back from?
I have just spent a week in Dubai. Yes, it was different to usual.
Yeah, I was there the week before you. So I thought it would be a good time for us just to chat about brand Dubai, and to kind of just discuss, how it's doing as a destination brand, how it's dealing with the impact of war, what we think about how it's dealing with it, what we think the prognosis for it is long term, and then also kind of just compare it to a few of the other really crazy destinations that have had to overcome some crazy stuff. So yeah, what did you think was different this time?
Well, it was empty. So I stayed at a really nice touristy hotel for a quarter of the usual price on the Palm. Yeah, it was a quarter of the price. And I think it was like 25% occupancy. They had shut down most of the restaurants. There was one maiden place to eat. So it was quiet. And I felt, so I got chatting to the people who work behind reception when I was checking in, and they were quite sad actually, because they want it to be busy. So that was one view I saw, and but then I chatted to people that live there that I know, and they're really buoyant. They were really buoyant. Right. They're like, no conflict, nothing. It'll be fine. We will bounce back stronger. It's the Dubai way.
Well, I mean, I think the really interesting thing is it's just, not the first time. And I'm personally, on behalf of Dubai, so fed up with the sort of tabloid, I won't mention any particular one, but the kind of tabloid headlines of like, Dubai is dead, expats flee, it's a zombie city, it's never coming back. And I just think, oh, for goodness sake, you silly, silly papers, because Dubai, back in 2008, 2009, when Lehman Brothers and everybody fell off a cliff, I think everyone, I remember the stories of, people abandoning their cars in the airport car park and flying back. And then COVID, everyone was freaking out. But Dubai has really proved itself to be quite resilient, hasn't it?
Completely. They always bounce back stronger. And now that's part of the mentality of the people that live there. And they really feel it. They're like, of course we're going to bounce back stronger. It's quite interesting to note, though, when the conflict started, the first strategy of all the Gulf states that were getting impacted and they were getting attacked from missiles and stuff was that they had warnings. They warned their population, and also whilst they also communicated with the world's news that this was happening. Mm-hmm. And that first strategy actually, on reflection, caused instability. And so they have a new strategy in the region for the Gulf countries, which is that they've got really good systems that are defensive systems. They are not scaring their own population. They are the warnings are not happening.
They've stopped.
And they are not telling the rest of the world that they are getting attacked when they're getting attacked. So it's a different strategy to maintain sustained stability. So they always just bounce back and do something stronger. I'm in awe of them, actually.
That's a new thing, because I was just there 2 or 3 weeks ago, and got some missile alert warnings. And the first time I was kind of walking down the beach and got missile alert, incoming missiles, take cover. And so we sort of went and took cover under a kind of little, beach umbrella, thinking, well, this is a bit silly, because we just thought, well, we don't know what's going to happen. And then the second missile alert, we were in a restaurant that had 100 people in it, and not a single person looked at their phone. I mean, the beeps went off, nobody looked. You could see that all the Dubai residents were just like, whatever. So it's very interesting that they've decided kind of not to panic the world, because I think it is an interesting sort of, discordant note, this war with, Dubai is such a kind of curated world of beach clubs, supercars, designer shops, rooftop bars, all kind of presented to the world through incredibly annoying Instagrammers and their viral content. And social media just amplifies all of this. And Dubai has just become increasingly partly associated with, conspicuous luxury, influencer lifestyle, aspirational living, but also really importantly, I think, with safety, both kind of physical safety for the wealthy, discretion. A lot of the properties that are being built with sort of a discretion proposition, but also great favorable economic conditions and great kind of safety financially. So anything that kind of undermines that safety proposition feels really kind of discordant with Dubai's brand, and yet they are handling it so well that I'm absolutely sure they are going to be totally fine.
Yeah, it's amazing, and they are, they are a playground for the rich and that sort of stuff. But they are so much more. The location is, it's access between Asia and Europe and the Middle East. Is that it's a fantastic location, and it's investment in terms of finance, it's investment in terms of trade, it's investment in terms of luxury. It is so much more than a sort of playground thing that we sort of immediately perceive about Dubai, actually.
Absolutely.
So it's worth having safety.
Yeah, and I think that the way they've handled it is really take my hat off to them. I mean, they've obviously their defense system has held brilliantly. They have really protected their population and their residents and visitors. I thought it was incredibly admirable, and I didn't think they got enough coverage for it, that during the sort of peak of the war, at the beginning of the war, when lots of visitors were getting stranded there, the UAE government promised, they paid for all of the tourists who got stuck. They paid for their hotels, for like 20,000 hotels. I mean, that's just phenomenal. Like that's all I need to know is like, have you got a good missile system? If I get stuck there, you're going to help me out with my hotel bills. Brilliant. Can't think of anywhere I'd rather be stuck, frankly.
Yeah, and the government has, the government put a 1 billion AED package together to support small businesses, even, not even just the big businesses. Yeah. So we did lots of things a bit like COVID, and the flights dropped to 50%. Only 50% of flights. When the conflict started, they cut flights by half to Dubai, understandably. But then those were full, and then they're back up to like 96, 97%, and those flights are full.
I was outraged. I thought I was going to get an empty cabin. I can remember, because I'm so old, Piers, unlike you, who's a spring chicken. I used to travel in the 70s, early 70s, from places like Jakarta to sort of Amsterdam. And I can remember the days when we might, from time to time, have a cabin to ourselves. Not a seat, not a row, but a cabin empty, but with just us. And I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And my flight was chock-a-block. And the hotel...
It is strange though that the hotel was empty. When I went, the hotel was quite empty, and yet the flight was full. So I was trying to work that out, but I suppose not everyone's tourists, right?
That's very funny. I stayed at the same hotel you did a week before, and I went out because it was a bank holiday. I went out early and took my son, and to sort of avail ourselves of, the kind of great rates and everything. Yeah, and it was chock-a-block. It was at 94% occupancy over the weekend because all the UAE people, it was on the Palm, so all the UAE people were going to the Palm to take advantage of these great rates and have a staycation. But what I've heard that everyone was doing, and I saw it in all the Atlantis and Sofitel and all the hotels, they were all like, they closed, like the hotel we were staying in closed 7 out of its 8 restaurants for renovations, and just sort of kept everybody into one. And all the hotels were saying that they were closing either the whole hotel or parts of it for renovations. Atlantis, the water park, half of it was closed for renovations. It's like a Fawlty Towers skit, like, don't mention the war. You just use the word renovations because why should they lay on 6 restaurants worth of food?
And we weren't to mention the war, actually. We were talking, it was the conflict when we were out there.
It was the conflict.
It was very much the conflict. It wasn't the war. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's a great mentality. It's all very positive. Very, very positive.
That Hannah and I really noticed, because Hannah was out with us, was all of a sudden UAE flags everywhere and in all the campaigns. Did you notice that? And there was this Proud of UAE campaign, an initiative, of course, by His Royal Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, for citizens and residents to kind of proudly hoist the UAE flag. And it was done well. I mean, it didn't jar, and I thought it was nicely done.
That's an interesting point. I wouldn't have thought of Dubai to be a place of patriotism and nationalism.
No,
right. 20, 30 years ago, but it is very much now. It is patriotism. People are proud of Dubai. Yep. They're really proud to live there. And they're proud to represent it, and they're proud to fight for it. I think it's lovely. And I did see the flag on so many factories, offices, you know, buildings up and down the
And
main
campaign
highway.
billboards. It was on advertising everywhere. Like everyone adopted it.
Yeah.
So we're very optimistic that Dubai is going to be absolutely fine. And I just think it's really interesting to look at destinations that have been through much worse. I mean, starting with, you know, the ultimate one has got to be Fukushima, Japan,
Yeah.
2011. The triple whammy of an earthquake, a tsunami, and a nuclear meltdown. If that's not bad, I just don't know what is. I mean, that is just actually, I can think of a couple of other examples, which we'll talk about in a minute. But
They
that was,
lost like 50 to 70% of tourism went down. Was that? Yeah, it was that. It's huge. I seem to
I mean,
remember.
I think Japan's tourism was reduced 28% as a result. I'm sure Fukushima's must have been
Well, yeah,
decimated.
non-existent.
Decimated. But within weeks of the disaster, like local divisions of the Ministry of Land were like doing incredible things to kind of restore confidence. So
They
yeah,
did a
they were.
film, didn't they? A message from Japan.
That's
I
right.
think
That's
so.
right.
They
That's
did
right.
yeah, yeah. I remember. I
From
remember that.
Japan. Yeah, really, really
Wow.
cute. Yeah, it was like a
And they
boy band.
backed it up with free flights for tourists. You know, they really did support their, you know, getting customers back.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other one that I think is so kind of worth a mention is Vietnam, who have just done so, so well in recent years. And they've overcome all sorts of things, obviously going back to the war, the Vietnam War, and kind of really turning that around, which is such a hard thing to do because that was probably the first conflict that was, you know, literally watched by everyone on TV.
Yeah, yeah.
It was all across people's screens and so on. And they introduced something called the Doi Moi reforms, which opened up Vietnam to kind of foreign investment and a market economy and really encouraged trade and tourism and so on. And they've had, I think they're now like Diageo's fifth largest market, and they've got so many tourists going to both North and South Vietnam, and it's just been incredible. So they've got great infrastructure, great
It's
airport.
outperforming the other countries out there, hasn't it? I think even
Yeah.
post COVID, it was the first to bounce back.
So they recovered faster than any other countries in the region. They had the highest recovery rate in ASEAN. So more so than what might have arguably been seen as traditionally more popular tourist destinations like Thailand, Singapore, you know, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines. So they had, you know, they've almost fully recovered now. They within a few years, but by 2019, they were almost fully back to their pre-COVID numbers, which is absolutely amazing. It certainly now has totally transformed its image, and now it's kind of, you know, bicycles and motorbikes and, you know, street markets and
Houses,
temples and so on. Yeah, it's great. You know, it's great. But I
a
guess
nice fun.
another one that, fur, yeah, you've got to love a bit of fur.
Ugh.
Although nobody can pronounce it. My father, who lived in Vietnam for many years, always has to correct my pronunciation, which is always wrong. But I guess
I
the
was
other one
told
that,
you're meant to pronounce it as if you're from Hull in the UK.
oh,
So you
that's
go,
hilarious.
"Ugh." That's what I was
How
told
a
anyway.
whole person would pronounce it. I
Yeah,
love that.
exactly.
Right. We'll test that on my dad. He'll be able to tell us. He speaks fluent Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Um, I can remember in, was it 2004, on Boxing Day, I was driving back from Gatwick and I heard on the news, on the radio, that there had been a tsunami in Indonesia in the first instance and then Thailand. And the first thing I heard was that 300 people had died. And then about half an hour, like an hour more into the drive, I heard that like 3,000 people had died. And by the time I got back to London, 300,000 people were dead.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with my driving. That was the Boxing Day tsunami that wiped out so much of Southeast Asia. And, you know, that has got to be, I mean, that was one of the biggest natural disasters in human history and hit popular tourist destinations in its peak season. It was just, and, you know, tourism fell to 40% in the aftermath of the tsunami, and 100,000 people lost their jobs. So Thailand got its act together and absolutely constructed tsunami warning towers and, you know, set up all sorts of dedicated tsunami recovery websites, worked with the WTO on all kinds of like familiarization visits for key journalists and tour operators just to try and bring everybody back and reassure them that it was all okay.
Yeah, terrible times, terrible times. I had some family members that were out there. They survived. They were lucky. My brother-in-law is a surgeon. He stayed out actually.
Oh, that's
Yeah, that's
amazing.
just report. Yeah.
Were they
But they were
in it? Like, did they see it?
nephews were young. The nephews were young. It was 2002, wasn't it? Yeah. No, 2004.
2004, I think. Yeah.
After Christmas.
Um,
Yeah, I remember it. I remember it. But
yeah,
anyway,
Boxing Day.
terrible times, but thankfully.
My favorite story about the favorite good story to come out of the tsunami was that some of the elephants on the beach were giving rides to tourists. Not only sort of felt the tsunami coming, because the elephants can feel the vibes, and they sort of shot off into the hills, taking quite frightened tourists with them, thinking that they were being kidnapped. But on the way there, they went, and some of their fellow elephants were tied to posts on the beach, awaiting their turn to give rides. And the free Ellies, went and kicked down the posts and freed their friends, so that all the elephants got to kind of run up the hill. But more importantly, from a marketing point of view, what was really interesting was that not only did they kind of have a whole post-tsunami marketing strategy, but that sort of inspired them to open up a bunch of new kind of drivers of demand and niche sectors that have really started to impact travel.
Right.
Medical tourism, sort of well-being tourism, spa holidays. They got really creative about their marketing, and that has actually ended up driving these new trends in destination marketing. So I guess, what are the lessons here if somebody is a destination, big or small, facing some sort of difficult time? I mean, I think that the reports of any destination's demise are always premature and wildly exaggerated, and everybody should keep calm and carry on, because humanity always bounces back. Destinations which are driven, they're communities of people, they bounce, don't they?
They do, and the governments have to and do always invest quickly and significantly in their own country, which I think as they should, and they do. But they're very quick, and they do it in different ways. It's interesting, quite strategic.
Yeah, I think that doing things like picking up the bill if tourists get stranded, just doing things like recovery visits, where you bring journalists and influencers and so on back to an area to show them it's safe. I think that's really clever. And then just looking around and thinking, okay, what else can we do to stimulate demand in a new way? I think so often disasters pave the way for innovation. How can you pivot? What can you pivot to? And can you, learn something from the experience? So hats off to Dubai. We're delighted to go there anytime. Absolutely no concerns. Really? Yeah. And look forward to watching and indeed surfing its rebound, which we are 100% certain of.
100%. Yeah. Good luck, Dubai.
Yeah, absolutely. Go UAE. Right. Okay. More next time. Thank you all for being with us. See you soon.
See you soon.
Marketing Global Edition is sponsored by 𝐒𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐬, the ad generator for small businesses that serves you effective and affordable ads in seconds. And by 7 Brands, the international advertising and branding agency that has worked with clients around the world, from Coca-Cola to Facebook.